So we are reading from Bhagavad Gita by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. We continue to read from 18th chapter, and in the previous texts we had a description of different activities in three modes of nature. For example, determination and austerities, etc., etc. Everything can be viewed from the point of view of three modes of material nature. This world is all consists of those three modes. We see that these three modes, three gunas, are all perceiving, and everything is influence, everything else. The qualities are influencing. Like the qualities of certain person can influence our life. We see that life before marriage and after marriage is different for a person because the mode is changing. Family life is usually the combination of mode of goodness and passion. And for renounced person, renounced person is the representative of mode of goodness. So in order sattva gun, or the mode of goodness, to be dominating, we need more of monks and saint people traveling around the world, stopping at the doors of householders, asking for some donation, little donation, and by their present, they remind people about this eternal goal of life, and they are not considered to be beggings, because they bring in this transcendental knowledge to them. And for the householder, it is hard to go to the temple very frequently, because he has so many things to run the house, and he has his wife and children, and he has to go to job, and such houses very often are being compared with a place where snakes live, because they accumulate a lot of poison, and it comes from the feeling of possession. They feel themselves a proprietor, and the family or householders, they are most considered to be, because they have this concept, I, me, mine. And in order not to sink in this life, there is a variety of tools in which we get spiritual practice, and also sane people remind them about it. And usually people tend to put these important things aside for the future. So there is a tendency to put spiritual practice aside for the future, because they say, my children are growing, I need to take care of them, I have so many other things to do. Usually that's what they think, and they put it aside. And they think spiritual life is when I get older, when I get my pension, I will be able to study this science of self-realization. But by that time, there's mind, intellect is becoming really weak, and they incapable of studying the philosophy. So it's better to study it while you're still not married. So we are reading from Bhagavad Gita, and this is a sort of education. The one who is reading for himself doesn't know it, and the one who is studying still doesn't know. The one who is giving the lectures also in the process of learning. So we are being united by this process. The Vedic culture unites everyone. There is, in mundane life, we see the difference between a student and a teacher. But in this case, no one knows the object, but the teacher has one difference. He has the knowledge, he has the qualities. The knowledge is qualities, so he has some qualities he can demonstrate. And everybody remains to be a student. If we are not acting in a spiritual atmosphere, we will not be able to get the spiritual knowledge. Satchitananda means eternity, happiness, and knowledge. So we need to turn our feelings towards happiness, knowledge, and eternity. So we stopped at the text 40th, and we're going to read it once again. And it says, there is no being existing either here or among the demigods in higher planetary systems, which is freed from these three modes born by material nature. So we have no doubts. We think heavenly planets might give me more. It's good, but no, it says that it also has ignorance and all other modes. Yes, it is much better to be on the heavenly planets, but the existence of that place is also temporary. It will be destroyed by the time when they're going to be end. And even though the living entities live a very long life up there, they're still worried about this temporary happiness. And they become sad because of that. And time flies, you know. When you are in love, you cannot notice the time. It goes by very quickly. Just like we're living our 100 years, this is the measurement of time. The time measures feelings and mind. The living entity is eternal, but it can be measured by its feelings. And when you're suffering, your time running slow. Even 1 minute is a hell. It's everlasting hell if you're suffering. So this measurement of time depends on our feelings. And on the contrary, when we are happily enjoying life, and the days are passing by so quickly, it seems like, and in the mode of passion, in the mode of ignorance, times is like snail. It goes with the snail speed. You know, when you're on a plane and you're waiting for something and you're getting bored, and time is slowly going. It will take you 3 hours to get somewhere. Just like when you wake up and you think, oh, you don't really think, if you wake up, you don't really think that it's gonna be another 3 hours for me to do something. No, you don't think this way. But when you're on the plane and you're waiting, because you're flying, you need to wait till it reaches the destination, and it's boring. So the heavenly planets is the same thing. Your time there is running fast, and then you need to go back to earth from your vacation. So it doesn't change anything if you're up there or here or down below. You're still affected by three modes. Next text is 41st. I'm going to read from the translation. Brāhmaṇas, kṣatriyas, vaiśyas, and śūdras are distinguished by the qualities born of their own natures, in accordance with the material modes or chastiser of the enemy. So, there are some people, and they are all in different modes. Why do they mention it? Do they want to make this caste system? No, they want to give you this knowledge about three modes of nature, so we could move ahead. We need to know the nature of suffering, the nature of happiness. So the laws of nature and of happiness and distress are being described here. When we violate the laws of nature, we suffer because there is no harmony, there is no trust, no friendship. When these highest laws of goodness being violated, then we suffer. Someone is mean because he means to be mean, and someone is doing it without knowing it. But both of them, they don't know that they're going to be affected by whatever they do. This is ignorance. Someone might think, I might live by means someone else. I might kill in order to survive. I might steal the money and it will make me rich, but that way I am acting against myself. This is the nature of the mode of passion. First you get into nectar. It's so sweet. Like there were no witnesses when I was stealing this money. So it's a nectar, but in the end, the reaction comes and it turns your nectar into poison. If there were no witnesses, I think there would be no consequences, but it will come anyway. It doesn't matter, because you always have a witness under you, witnessing you. Someone is. The mode of passion makes you act in this way. If you close your eyes, you think no one sees, right? But there are so many eyes outside, all over you, all around you. The sunlight is a witness of our deeds. Moonlight also. Everything is being controlled. Every action has a reaction. There are some things we do, we don't even know how the consequences are going to come. But there are some things that we know. Ordinary karma, it is coming to us while we're dreaming. We cannot remember it when we wake up. And dream is one of the functions of the sleep or dreaming is to bring you some karma. It might give you some bad dreams. But it means if you have this dream, it means your karma is getting softer because you didn't suffer it while you were awakened. Like you were killed in your dream or ran down by a car. But because you were reading from the Bhagavad Gita, you were studying about the science of soul and self-realization. This is your main purpose. Because you started to walk on this path, your karma is becoming softer in order to make it way for you possible. While you still have karma, you're chained. So we need at least half an hour a day or 15 minutes a day to start to read Bhagavad Gita every day. And you will see how your life circumstance will improve bit by bit this way. So by spiritual practice, your karma is becoming softer. And what might be happening to you in your real life will happen in your dream. There were some people who dreamed that they were killed in a dream, who were practicing it. As well, I was meeting with killers, real killers, and I was talking to them. And even those who are doing it for money, in the 90s, I was facing a lot of them because there were many such people. And sometimes these people would join our movement or come to the temple, and they would have completely different reactions following this activity. So it means that they were given a chance to continue this practice. And in the 90s, we had some stage theater performance about someone who had a son, married son, and one was trying to go to see someone, and another one is trying to stop him because he's saying, your wife is sick and you cannot go anywhere. So they've been arguing about it, and while one is away, the other is dying. And then someone is knocking at the door, and the son is meeting his father at the doors, and he's saying that a young man, not the son, but a young man came, and he came knocking at the door, and he brought these books. He was a book distributor, and he brought Bhagavad Gita to this house. And it was funny that the guy was saying, like, we don't need any books right now because we have a dead body right here. And the man, his father, he was saying, no, let him in. But the thing was that, according to the plot of that performance, the death, embodied death came into the house already, and it was all dressed in red and with some suitcase. And they don't see it, but the man, the older man, he sees. He feels it, and it's like just the death approaching that guy and getting its suitcase open, producing its tools from there. And that man feels like something is, his life is running out. And the man says, so is it over now? And death says, yes, your life has passed and it's your time to go. And he was like, but can you tell me what was the purpose of my life? Why I was engaged in all this activity? Yeah, well, I don't know, because it's just my job. I came here to do this, but it's time for you to go. So all you can do, you can just go and say goodbye to all your relatives. And that actor was performing it so good. He was describing this nonsense of life without purpose, and he was giving this speech And at that moment, they could hear the bell ringing, and that book distributor came. So the death and those two men in the house, they could hear that distributors talking. And he was like, I have some books about yoga and self-realization and everything. And that man who was about to die, he was saying, no, get him in. I need this book. I need to read it right now. I need to know my goal in life. So the distributor, he got in and he sold him Bhagavad Gita. And that man, he grabs that book, embrace the book. And while he's doing that, death is packing its tools, all of it, back to its suitcase. And it says, well, while you're reading this Gita book, I will leave, but I will come back when you stop, when you're done. So while we are reading, our life might change, and people are waiting for these changes. But let's approach it scientifically, not with some blind faith. Of course, we need to have some hope and love, but it should not be sentimental. We need to approach it scientifically. We need to see and study it closely. All the evidences. If we are not doing anything good, why are we waiting for some good things? We hope for it. But in the future, we have nothing but death. It's not like I'm trying to scare you with it. The life goes in circles all the time. You get in birth and you die. When you're old, no one needs you really. What was your life for? You've been sacrificing all your life. You've been working so hard all the time. And all your hopes came for nothing. Because this world is temporary. But, of course, it takes some time to approach it, to understand it. It's hard to let the people know that you're dying. With every minute you're dying. But when you are 80, you understand that you are dying. It's a question of time to realize it, this fact. But we should not be afraid of it, because we are the soul and we are being attached to the body. That's why we are being trapped. The body was always dead. It was never alive. So while you, as a soul, while you're being there, it seems like the body is alive. But this is just a cocoon. So, in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it is said that you are the soul. But even knowing that, you need to know how to act as a soul. And this knowledge comes in the three modes. And in the passion, you're gonna be misled. In ignorance, you wouldn't know what to do. But in the mode of goodness, you would know that your life is a path of austerities and a path of purification of your senses in order to feel what's coming from beyond, the transcendental knowledge. So we need to know one thing. As a soul, we are similar to God by the qualities. Same qualities. You are not of this material world, but you're different by the quantity. So we should keep remember that we are not God, we are a particle of the God. And the part is always served to the whole. I am the servant, I am not the master. Everybody is trying to be the master in this world. But when you're serving God, it means you're acting in renunciation, in renouncement state. If I was living for myself, then there is no purpose of my life. Just like Jesus Christ, he was saying, if you have all the wealth of this world, but it will be destroyed, and if you give all the wealth to God, then it will multiply. So when people don't understand the philosophy, then they get some stories told to them, so a person could feel it. Usually Jesus Christ was comparing the God with the Father, because people could not understand it, and he compared it in order to make them feel. So there were no people who can explain you the way to happiness. So when someone meets another one, he thinks he's going to be happy. We're going to get married and we're going to live happily ever after.
Что в брак должны счастье принести, не ожидать друг от друга. Так вы будете драться друг с другом. А откуда вы это счастье принесете?
Where would you get happiness from?
Знание получить. Жить по законам гуны благости. В вашем доме будет сама Лакшми.
So we need to be moved by the mode of goodness, and that way Lakshmi herself, the goddess of opulence, will come to your house. So there are different types of people: Brāhmaṇas, vaiśyas, kṣatriyas, and śūdras. Brāhmaṇas are intellectual people, and kṣatriyas are the rulers, vaiśyas are traders, and śūdras are the workers. They've been born with these qualities: peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. Honesty, knowledge, these are the natural qualities by which the Brāhmaṇas work. So these are the qualities of Brāhmaṇas, and they are being influenced by the mode of. By the mode of goodness.
И вот эти качества могут остаться в зачаточном состоянии, так не раскрывшиеся, если человек не получит должного образования, воспитания брамана. Также нужно еще не только рождение, но и воспитание. Не имеет таких врожденных и обучения. Это сила знания. То есть можно изменить что-то в жизни. На самом деле мы получаем настоящие духовные знания.
So the power of knowledge is when we get the spiritual knowledge.
Например, кто-то сделали плохое.
For example, we've done something bad,
а потом сделали что-то хорошее, материальное.
And we get the results, right? And then we've done something good, material. Does it mean that the bad reactions will leave? No, it will stay. The good reactions will add. Regarding spiritual life, it changes. If we were making some bad things and we started to be engaged in devotional service, the spiritual practice, then our karma, bad karma, becomes soft.
И вот можно стать браманом.
I was given examples before.
Когда один
So
ученик
one can
Бхагавад
become a
Гиты
Brahmana.
приехал в Англию рассказывать Бхагавад Гиту лордом.
And when one of the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he came to London, he was a sannyasi, and British people, they knew Vedic culture by that time already. So he came, and actually British people, they could not understand any spiritual things in India. They were concentrated only on getting money and gold from India. So there was sannyasi who came to England, and he started to give lectures on that topic. And one of the wealthy people, he said, Swamiji, could you make me a Brahmana? And he said, yes, but what should I do to become Brahmana? Can you make me a Brahmana? And he said, yes, you need to follow 4 regulative principles. You need to get rid of meat eating. You need to get rid of illicit sex, intoxications, and gambling. And that Lord, hearing that, he started to laugh. He said, it's impossible. And it affected that Swami, that he felt that it is impossible for those people in the Western world to follow it. So they decided that it's not for them. They will never be able to live in the Vedic culture. And Brahmanas from the East will never live as the Western people do. So Western people sometimes say, why do you spread us this Indian culture? We are Russians. Why do you spread it here? And at the same time, the same Russians, they borrow European languages and, let's say, Italian culture and everything. If you study the Russian towns, then you will see so many things been borrowed from Italy, like Italian architecture. And if you talk about fashion, it being brought from France. But when someone is giving you Bhagavad Gita and spiritual science, they say, we don't need anything coming from India. It's impossible. Back then, if you say you need to become a vegetarian, for the Western person, it was considered to become weak. Because if you're vegetarian, you would lose your ability to fight and resist. So we're saying, why is it Indian? Why is it American? Why is it from here, from there? But when we see a car from Germany, we say, yes, I want it. This is very strange. So these are the qualities of Brahmana. And they're being manifested and revealed in their activity. Heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, the nature of kṣatriya. He would always fight, look for fight. Kṣatriya means kshat, the one who is revealing, the one who is taking your pain away, protect you. They cannot sit still when something is something wrong is going on. They become very active, and the more complicated the situation, the better kshatriya he is, belongs to the extreme situations. You need to have some extreme problems solved, you throw kṣatriyas in there. You don't really need to go into the details in order for them to be motivated to act. Courage in the battle, generosity and leadership are the natural qualities of work for the kṣatriyas. Farming, cow protection and business are the natural work for the vaiśyas. And for the śūdras, there are labor and service to others. Who are making the most amazing things in the world? Śūdras, the working class. None of others can do it as good. No vaiśyas, no kṣatriyas, no Brāhmaṇas. We call them people with golden hands. They can build or construct whatever, but they do it under the control of others. There was one time when there was one guy who put the golden shoes on the flea. The flea was jumping. It was actually a mechanical flea. It was jumping. And then it was said, and what Russians can do. So that Russian guy, he came and took that mechanical flea and he added horseshoe on its feet.
И в мою бытность тогда было одно из чудес. Где-то в журнале еще «Наука и техника», по-моему, печаталось, был такой журнал.
Back in the Soviet times, we had a magazine about the tech. And one of the wonders they've been publishing about, there was a metal cube presented there that was polished till it was mirroring everything. It was perfectly made. It was still a cube, perfectly made cube. You cannot say it's a wonder of the world. But he was saying, no, this object is very unique. He would take this cube and struck it against the table, and it got to be broken into pieces. And he said, could you collect it back together? No one could. And people were trying to take all the pieces, but they were not sticking together. And they were saying, no, we can't. He got a special tool, because when you were using your hands, you couldn't operate it. There should be a certain temperature that will make certain condition for those pieces of metal to merge together. And he made it easily with the tool. There was another wonder of the world in Australia. It was proved by some machine. So there was a place, a touristic place. It's out in nature. And there was a needle, stainless steel needle, like a size of 5-story house. And it had a plate with the title that this needle piercing the ground for 15 kilometers.
Полчаса. Как это возможно было сделать?
And everyone would be stopped there,
Там
puzzled, and
табличка, может быть, там ничего нет.
thinking,
Проверить.
how could that be possible? Possibly it's just the plate stayed in it,
Другое чудо
but
света
there's nothing
сделал
going
один человек.
alone.
Он покрыл
And
тканью
also there was another thing.
несколько квадратных километров пляжа.
One guy, he covered
Скал.
the beach
Шил куски.
and rocks
Есть
with
фотографии.
a piece of cloth.
Несколько
kilometers,
квадратных километров. Вы видите,
few
как
square
всё
kilometers.
покрыто тканью.
It was
Все скалы
covered,
до побережья, до
everything
моря,
was
всё
covered
покрыто тканью.
with cloth,
Упаковано. Вот что ещё можно
like wrapped.
Это примеры того, как
So these are the
шудры
examples
действуют, когда
how
нет знаний.
shūdras act
Они будут всякие
when they
такие
have no
вещи делать,
knowledge.
такие вот.
They would make so
Модели всякие будут делать.
unique and
модели обуви могут
wonderful
делать
things.
бесконечно, модели одежды
They would make
бесконечно. Вы зайдете в
unlimited
супермаркет, вы
amount
найдете
of
там
shoe
сотни тысяч
types
разных моделей, которые
and
постоянно
all
обновляются,
sorts of
меняются.
different kinds of
Приборы,
things,
техника, машины, новые, больше
some
удобств, еще больше. Вот
technology,
ручки, такие
some
верноручки,
machines,
окна, пластиковые, деревянные,
the
шпингалеты.
window
И
sets,
буду
windows,
думать дальше и дальше.
handles, so such a
Это
big
прогресс.
variety of everything,
Шудр,
and
говорится.
it is progress of
Браманы никогда
shūdras.
этим заниматься не будут.
Brāhmanas will never be
Нет
engaged in
такого
this
смысла
activity.
существования.
They will
Нужно это
see that
развивать через
there is
это.
no purpose in this,
Это
in such
имеет
an
место быть,
existence.
конечно же.
Of course, it
В
is,
каких-то особых случаях
is
нужно такое
needed,
мастерство где-то показать,
and
храмы строить, вот это,
somewhere
сделать какое-то чудо.
there's a usage for it.
Ну,
Like when you build in a
в
temple,
Барселоне как-то в Испании, там
you can utilize that.
Гауди. Есть такой
Just
известный
like
архитектор,
a Gaudi
очень
architector
печальный
who
в
was
истории искусства. Он
from
нравится.
Spain, who've
Он
been
делает
studied
чудеса,
in
вот, и причем эти чудеса воплощаются,
classes of art.
что он
So he
проект
was
создал на бумаге.
Making this
Люди
project,
платить, это были баснословные затраты.
the project was written
Гауди
on the
известный. Он
on
архитектуру
the
как бы
paper,
сочетает с естественными какими-то вот формами,
and he was
как будто у него растет архитектура из чего-то, знаете, вот как
making an
природный элемент
architecture
какой-то, вот он
that
так
would
сочетает.
seem to be growing
Там нет таких строгих
just
форм
like
графических, там
naturally
разные, вырастает
grow
что-то там и что-то,
trees and
структуры переходят, как
grass.
часть архитектуры.
So
Вот
these
мы пошли
architectural
смотреть его
elements
храм Гауди,
were-
который до сих пор еще не
are very
достроен.
amazing. And so we went to see this temple,
Это мировой колос, который
and
недавно
it
с
is
ним имели,
still
он до сих пор еще
being
не
under
достроен.
construction.
Уже недостроенный привлекают туда людей каждый день, тысячи
And
паломников,
still it is
чтобы
attracting
посмотреть,
thousands
как
of
это
people there to see the architecture of Gaudi.
Мы тоже поехали посмотреть Гауди.
We also went there to see that temple.
Одна там колонна только в этом помещении.
One of the pillars,
Основание занимает
inside.
диаметр вот этой комнаты.
it was the diameter of this room,
Примерно метров около 100 идет вверх.
and it was 100 meters long
Этот
approximately.
колос, ну, там у вас небо, не храм, а в небо куда-то.
It's colossal,
И там вы чувствуете это пространство.
and you
Когда
feel
вы
that
смотрите
space
вниз, небо
inside.
просто голубое, и все, вы не видите пространство. Пока
You
у
you
вас
see just blue sky
или еще выше.
above your head, nothing else.
Так мы не видим, а вот там вот эта
We
архитектура,
cannot
конечно,
feel the
она
space, but there, this architecture influences your perception. And one of the wonderful things there is
невероятная.
the organ
И распятие Иисуса висит
and the crucifixion of Jesus Christ that is
это натуральная величина,
levitating
крест без опоры,
in the middle
сделано натурально. Вы видите,
of
как
the
человек
dome, and the cross
на
has
кресте. Висит где-то
no
в этом
attachment
пространстве,
whatsoever.
освещенный прожекторами со
So
всех сторон.
it's flying there,
Раскрывают.
and all the spotlights
Настоящий.
are
Видение.
turned to it.
Оказывается, не в воздухе, конечно же. Там
Of course,
тончайшие какие-то стальные струны.
It's not flying or levitating. It has
Вот
some
это
invisible
одно из таких чудес, где
stainless
в храмах, допустим, потом в дворцы какие-то,
strings
музеи,
there, but you cannot really see
чтобы
it.
людям показать какие-то достояния. Все цари, допустим, они
Of course, you can find some amazing things
столицы,
in museums, and all the kings, they collect so many wonderful things in the capitals, usually.
Как мой отец однажды удивил всю нашу семью.
Just like my father, he was.
И тогда, в то время, еще не было нейлоновой одежды, хлопчатобумажной одежды.
He was putting all the family in shock one day because back then in Soviet times we had no nylon, and it was a secret manufacture back then. So Japanese, one of the first, they discovered how to make this synthetic thread to make nylon. Nowadays, everything we wear, we have clothes that would have a lot of wrinkles. You sit one time with the 100 cotton clothes and it will be all wrinkled, and a lot of ironing would be needed, and we had those irons and stuff. Back in the days we were still ironing, that the iron would have the coal, you know, this burning coal inside in order to get the heat. So one day my father, he brought a skirt to my mom, and the reason I remember it because my mom, she was wondering how to wear that skirt because it had so many straight lines in it, and she was thinking, how am I to iron it? It's impossible to iron every line to keep it the same way. And father, he was smiling, and he grabs that skirt and starts to keep it in his arms. And my mom, she was afraid that now it would be spoiled, but then he said, no, it's synthetic, you don't need to iron it. It's perfectly, it looks perfect all the time. So back in the 60s, there were some people called hippies. Hippies were the vagabonds. Those who were not, they were considered to be the ones who were not of any use in the society. And Prabhupada, he made Brāhmaṇas of them. Nowadays we have so much of the technologies, all the smartphones and laptops and everything, but you shouldn't think that this is the production of Brāhmaṇas. If the whole society is degrading to the mode of passion, then they cannot hear Brāhmaṇas anymore. So Brāhmaṇas are saying peace, be pacified, be peaceful, because they are peaceful. But people are saying, no, we need war. They don't want to listen to Brāhmana. So there is war happening, and a lot of suffering, and this curse is working, and everybody is saying, yes, you were right, we want peace after all of this. And then countries are being restored again, and everyone is starting to say, war, we need war, we need to fight. And Brāhmanas are saying, no, you need to be pacified, you need to be peaceful. So, just like the Russia and US, they were always against each other. And when we were Hare Krishnas, they were saying, you were agents of United States. So when the war is happening, everyone says, now we need peace. But in the mode of passion, people don't agree. So among all of these three types of people, Brāhmanas are the best. But we still need kṣatriyas to protect the culture, and vaiśyas are needed to have the economy going. And śūdras is golden hands. So these classes, they vary by its qualities. And we cannot say that someone is more important. It makes one body. And to understand that this is one body, the four parts of one body, we need Brāhmaṇas to tell. And then we might have the shortage. If we don't have Brāhmaṇas, there would be a shortage of understanding, and people would start to exploit everyone. And we're going to read from the next text, 45th. It has no commentary. By following his qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Now please hear from me how this can be done. It might be seem that Shudra might not get the perfection. You need to be a Brahman. But no, it is said completely opposite. You don't need any career. You might be of low class. You might come of low class, but you can be spiritually elevated. The thing is that when you're peaceful, it's not a profession. When you have the self-control or your aesthetic, it's not a profession. Wisdom is not a profession. These are qualities. Your profession can be anything. You can do whatever. But you need to follow your nature. Shudra still remains Shudra from outside, but inside he becomes a Brahmana. His inner world, his consciousness is being changed, not a profession. A man might think, I would like to make a career. A lot of people came to do the business, but not so many people have the nature of vaiśyas, and nothing but suffering came to their life. You need to do your own thing. You don't change that. You need to change qualities.
Prabhupada сказал, что дворник, сознающий Бога, важнее царя, который не сознает Бога.
Street sweeper is more important if he is God conscious than the king who is not God conscious. If all of them have the God consciousness, then they are equal. It doesn't matter whether you're a king or a worker. So it is said that by following his qualities of work, every man can become perfect. The main thing is that when a man acts according to his nature, he is not making any sin. There is a sin when he is trying to imitate the nature of someone else. So our main purpose, the main purpose of the ruling class is to keep an eye on people so they could follow their nature. This is it. This is all management required. We just need those rulers who see the real nature of people. And kṣatriyas, they have this right and ability to see, to divide people who can be engaged in the spiritual practice and follow their nature. So kṣatri, he sees, immediately he sees the qualities of man, and he can lead someone, he can inspire someone, someone you need to make to work. Sometimes you need to inspire someone to do something. Kṣatriyas, they see, they know.
Итак, вот мы почитали с вами
these things.
несколько стихов.
So
Теперь
we've
мы
read
видим,
a
что есть
few
люди в разных гунах прирождены.
texts, and
разные
now we know there
разные
are
профессиональные
different
склонности,
types of people
разные качества у них.
with different qualities,
При этом неважно, в какой гуне
and
человек
at the same
природный, он
time,
может достичь
it doesn't
совершенства,
matter
следуя
under
своей
the
природе.
influence of
Вот
which
сегодняшняя
mode
тема из 18 главы
you're
Священного
working, you still can be,
У нас появились какие-то вопросы?
you still can attain perfection if you follow your nature. Do we have any questions?
Почему?
Why the soul forgets its previous
Не душа забывает.
embodiment? Not the soul forgets.
Сверхдуша.
The super soul gives, takes the memory away from the soul, because the memory
Не управляет.
and the loss of
Он
memory
будет помнить, если не дано заведение,
comes
будет
from the
помнить.
super soul.
Это решает сверхдуша, и по решению сверхдуши каждое
It's
воплощение
up
начинается как
to
бы
the
заново,
super soul to decide.
с утраченной памятью прошлой жизни, потому что вы не сможете полноценно жить в этой жизни, если вы будете помнить всех ваших.
It will be impossible for you to live your new life if you still remember your previous life.
Это невозможно. Если вы будете помнить
It's a heavy burden
родственников,
if you still remember your relatives from your past life
одну жизнь прожить
and
до
the
конца с этой памятью,
situations of your past life.
с памятью.
It is even hard to remember your present life.
Поступков, столько событий было.
You've been going through
Эта
so
память
many
не может
different
быть счастливым человеком
things.
в материальном мире.
Sometimes it's very hard.
Некоторые помнят
Some people do remember.
четко прошлую жизнь.
They
Это им мешает.
even remember it very well, and it's becoming a big obstacle.
В какие-то моменты душа вспомнит все это.
At some moment, the soul will remember it.
Просто
It's
мы,
never getting lost.
душа не забывает.
We don't remember it, but the super soul knows.
То есть жесткий диск остается с большой
So
безграничной
there is
памятью.
that SSD that
В
still
нужный момент это всплывет.
remembers.
Так же, как говорится, момент смерти всплывают все подробности
Just like they say,
жизни.
at the moment of death,
Ничто никуда.
we see all the episodes of our life.
Но это нецелесообразно.
Nothing goes away,
Живя уже в другой жизни.
really, but living a different life, you don't really need that memory.
Если жена ушла, как понять, идти в браманы, которых не хватает, или спасать семью, которая отталкивает мои духовные устремления?
Отталкивает духовное стремление.
If there is someone who is discouraging me
Ответственность.
from spiritual
Да?
path,
Жена ушла, как понять, идти в браманы, которых не хватает?
Нет, это не браман, который просто жена его бросила, он стал браманом от несчастья.
Brahman is
Не
not,
придумывайте.
Brahmana is not a
Браманом
person
можете стать при
whose
помощи
wife
власти,
left and he
власти,
has to
власти,
become
качества.
Brahmana now because he has nothing else to do. No, it should be your nature. You need to develop your qualities.
Да, много боли нам предстоит вынести
Yes,
в этой жизни.
we will have to suffer a lot of pain in this life.
Знала заранее, что
And
ей
if
не
soul would know
она бы отказалась
everything
остаться на этом белом свете.
that it would face, it would refuse to get birth in this life.
Вот жена ушла. Это же больно, так я понимаю.
When your life leaves you, it hurts, right? And we need to live with it.
Знаете, как-то вот, ну, нехорошо тратить всю свою жизнь на личные отношения с женой.
And but you know, this life is
Брак в
not
каком-то смысле подобен профессии.
just to be spent only on the relationship with your wife. Your marriage is
Если
there.
вы ходите на работу, то тоже
You have to
там
do
тоже можете
your
ругаться,
obligation. You have to follow it.
всё равно должны это делать.
You have to go to your job
Долг
and argue there,
держит семью.
everything,
Чувства,
and
то
your
сближает, то
fulfillment
отталкивает,
of
сближает,
duties
то отталкивает, то мирится,
keeps the
мирится,
family
мирится,
together,
это чувство. Вы так и
and
будете
your
верны,
feelings
чувства.
working like that.
Если нет долга, то будет сходиться,
They
расходиться.
argue, and then they make friends. They
Переймите
argue
толк,
and make
видите,
friends.
к
So,
вам придет
all you need to
менять
do
свой
is to
характер.
accept your duties in this family
По-другому
life,
не будет.
this material life. There is no other way.
Но на такой аскезу способны, да, браманы или кшатрии, может быть, а вот шудры не способны быть такими терпеливыми,
But
нет знаний.
to tolerate your life,
Поэтому такие семьи быстро распадаются.
not so many people can tolerate. The Brāhmaṇas can do it,
Как это
kṣatriyas can do it, śūdras
люди
can't.
семьи создают без всякого понимания, что они делают.
And nowadays people are making families
Ни малейшего
without
понимания не
a
имеют.
hint of understanding
Ну,
what's
давайте
their ultimate
всё,
goal.
что они знают. Но ровно счету ничего не знают.
They know nothing.
Непонятно. Семейный уклад — это такая как бы сложная вещь.
Family life is such a
Нужна
complicated
серьезная
thing.
подготовка.
You need to be prepared,
Они просто в голову взбрело, пошли жениться.
really prepared. But you just think one day, I want to get married. I want to get married.
Моча в голову ударила, говорят.
They say
Гениталию в голову ударили, скорее всего.
you're
Что-то
thinking
в этом духе.
not with your brain, but with your genitals.
Необходимо же образование какое-то.
You need some education.
Весь мир держится на семейных
Whole
людях.
world
Если семейные люди
rests
несчастливы,
on
то это беда.
family, on married people. If married people are not happy, then it's a tragedy.
Где вырастают новые поколения? В семьях.
Because
В плохих
this
семьях.
is where a new generation coming from. In the bad families, we have bad
Мы,
generation.
конечно, выбираем что-то хорошее.
Of course, we
хороших людей.
choose some good among,
По-настоящему
all
хороших,
these
великих
bad,
людей. Очень мало здесь.
but
Очень-очень мало.
we can see that we are lacking great people, great personalities.
Скажите, пожалуйста, как человек может понять свою природу деятельности и
How a man can understand his nature and
Да, для всех это
his
однозначно.
profession. Yeah,
Свою
everyone
принадлежность
has
к
to
той или иной
understand
склонности нужно
what
понимать,
varna
свою
and
природу.
what inclination of activity he has,
И именно их занимать, свою природу нужно
And
занимать, не какое-то
then utilize his nature,
Что если
not
вы
someone
будете
else's nature. You need
не
to utilize.
опираясь на свою природу, вы не будете счастливы.
If you
У
live
вас не будет даже радости.
and you try to imitate someone else's abilities, then you're gonna suffer.
Нужно понимать.
Yes, we do need to understand it.
Для этого вы должны именно увлечься чем-то.
It means
Не деньги
we need to be
зарабатывать, а увлечься
passionate
сначала надо.
about certain thing. Not
Вот
be.
ваше природное вот это
Usually we're
увлечение,
passionate about money,
как бы вашим
but
стимулом.
you should not be passionate about money. You
А
should
потом, когда вы это уже понимаете
follow
и умеете делать, можете зарабатывать.
some passion in your life. When you understand that, you will be able to make money with it.
Себя нужно знать,
First, you need to
а потом зарабатывать.
realize yourself
Наоборот.
and then try to make money, not vice versa.
как человеку понять, что он занимается той деятельностью, которой должен в этой жизни?
How
Ну, мы только
can
что
I
говорили,
understand that I am engaged in a profession I need to do in my life? We just discussed it. What's motive should be,
конструктивный мотив.
constructive motive should be to get married, to make family.
Нет, конструктивность, ну, полезно. Это полезная какая-то, да, сторона должна быть.
So constructive
Самая
motive
полезная
means
сторона
to do some
—
good, right?
это то, что вы
And positive side of marriage
хорошее-
is
хорошее поколение.
to bring good generation
Это
up
самый большой вклад, то, что можете сделать.
to the society. This is the best
И передадите,
input to the
ну,
society.
те великие знания новому поколению.
You give great knowledge
Как раз наше
to the new generation.
Ради этого мы развиваем много вещей.
That's why we're developing so many things,
И профессии нужна,
maintaining
и
so many
честный
things.
труд нужен,
We need honest
заниматься нужна
work,
экономикой, и политикой,
honest
культурой,
jobs,
образованием, и
and we need to cultivate
медицинской
the
помощью.
culture
Столько всего.
and medical
Что делают
treatment
семейные люди.
and so many other things, and it's all being done by family people. by the householders.
Это опора всего общества, семья.
The family is the pillar for the base for all the society.
Остальные люди вне семьи это кто?
All other
Это дети,
people
выросшие, у них нет семьи.
or beyond the family,
Это пенсионеры, отошедшие от дел уже, которые
married people, they
тут
considered to
семейных
be,
дел, и те, кто уже
they're
отрекается полностью
more
от
like
жизни в конце.
children,
Три категории
and those
людей,
who are
смотрите, они даже деньги не
the
зарабатывают.
pensioners
Должны зарабатывать.
and
Одна категория
students.
работает, это семейные люди.
Only one category among
Есть
all of
стариков,
them
женщин там, не
is
знаю.
working.
Это поддерживающая сила цивилизации.
Not the old people, not the
Если в
young
семье
guys,
нет
not
этих
women.
духовных принципов,
If there are no
общество пойдет в ад.
spiritual
Каждая
principles
семья будет
applied,
драться за свою славу, за свое богатство.
everyone would go to hell because everybody is gonna fight for his right
Ущемлять интересы друг друга и унижать друг друга.
and
Это
mistreat
семейные люди.
each
Ради
other.
своих детей.
So married people, they do these things
Смотрите, духовный
for
уклад.
their children's sake. If there is no spiritual
Просто
knowledge,
семейные темы. Скажите, пожалуйста, когда семейный долг заканчивается?
when is it is
Да,
the time for
Да,
family
это
to be
время
over,
ванапрастхи.
family life to be over?
Ванапрастха
Yeah, it's the
или
time of Vanaprastha. It's
вана.
Vana means forest,
Он уходит из дома,
and such a man, he leaves
дела закончил,
house.
вырастил детей, всё,
his
оставил им
his
наследство.
children grown up, he's leaving his
Свободный человек.
possessions and he's going to the forest
Свободный
he's
полностью
free.
для того, чтобы вот вернуться к Богу.
to go back home, back to Godhead.
Это ванапрастха.
This is Vanaprastha.
В лес не уходите здесь.
But don't go to the forest here. It's too cold
Это наши
in the winter.
северные регионы, тут буквально.
Our northern region makes it impossible.
Духовную, как бы,
But
практику имеется в виду.
When you take Vanaprastha, it means you
Жить просто, аскетично, не
go
переедать, вот, то есть контролировать чувства в этом возрасте нужно.
more and more towards spiritual practice.
Так еще он долго
You
сохраняет жизнь,
regulate in your life.
в глубоком
You're
здравии.
not oversleeping, overeating.
Жизнь, питание, сон, совершать какие-то аскезы.
You go through some austerities because you still have some strength
Если
for a long
аскез есть,
time.
он переедает,
If you have some,
то
if you don't have some austerities, you would overeat or
диабет,
oversleep,
всё что угодно.
and you would have a lot of
Желудочные, там, не знаю,
problems with your health.
употребляет пищу, если он не обучился контролировать чувства, он жиреет, толстеет,
If
или
he's
забивает, или
not
просто просиживает за домино, или
knowing this science,
бессмысленно.
how to control the senses,
Поэтому тут
then
требуется
he is
аскеза, полезная аскеза,
get into a lot of
чтобы сохранить
illnesses.
ясный разум и
So
позицию сознания Бога.
some austerity requires in order to preserve the intelligence, to be capable
Только начал читать,
to live in full.
почему это священное писание начинается с брата убийственной войны.
I'm
Нужно
a new man
чтобы
here.
чувство
I'm just
Бога,
joined this,
чувство открылось,
and
чувство
I don't
сознания
know
Бога.
why the
Не
spiritual
разочаровался.
scripture
Надо
starts
читать всё священное писание.
with war.
Священные войны
description.
всегда были.
You need to read through the whole book
Много
in order to understand it. Actually, Bible
в
has
исламе также.
a lot of description of wars, and
Войны всегда были на земле.
Islam
Время от времени. Они, конечно, по-другому
has
проводились.
describing the wars. Of course, the wars were differently.
Мирное население
The times
всегда.
of Bhagavad Gita, the war
Никто не зажигал деревни,
was
мирных жителей.
going on separately. No one was burning the villages. It was
Никто
not
другой на поле битвы не приходил.
influencing the cities.
Ну, кто-то в политике участвовал, бывало, что браманы тоже иногда вовлекались,
No one would
определенного уровня
come
вовлекались в такие
to
политические.
burn down towns.
Но это не поощрялось. Только
Of course,
войны, вот
politics
по их природе.
would be engaged, but mostly it's just
Воевать слишком много
it was a
против
business of
зла в
soldiers
мире, война не
and
идет.
fighters. If there is a lot of evil in
Но там
in the
воины
world,
знали законы
then
чести, законы счастья,
the
даже
war
когда
will
воевали.
come. but
Культура была очень высокая.
the culture was very high.
Не сравнивать это с теми войнами, которые
Don't compare it to nowadays.
на планете сейчас за
The wars nowadays,
сбыта или за нефть.
they're fighting for oil
Это войны демонические.
or for
Они
the
не приносят
market.
очищения в обществе.
These
До
wars
войны
do not
было много
purify
зла. После войны
anything.
то же самое зло остается. Какой толк?
You have the evil before the
Война,
war
если
and
нужна,
you
то
have the
для
evil
очищения от зла,
remaining
от злых сил.
after the war.
Значит,
But
после
you
войны
need
должно быть
the
лучше.
war to purify the situation.
Но мы не видим этой картины.
It should be better after the war,
Даже война не
but
улучшает.
we don't see it that
Наоборот.
anything is being improved by the war.
Это надо изучать.
We need to
В этом
study
мире,
it.
говорит, война может вспыхнуть неожиданно.
This world,
Сравнивается с бамбуковым лесом в сезон жары.
the war might come
жарко,
unpredictably.
даже
It might be
ветер.
unpredictable. It says that the wind is blowing and the bamboo stems
Даже без какой-то сознательной причины.
touching
Никто как бы не планирует
itself,
войны так.
each other.
Ну, они вспыхивают.
And because
Материально
it touches
так.
it, there might be some
Здесь будет
heat
описываться,
and some sparkles.
как нужно сражаться,
So the
чтобы
fire
сражаться,
might rise
то как
by
нужно.
itself.
Долг
But
вот,
Bhagavad Gita, it says
вот
that
как это нужно,
the warrior has its duty to fight,
чтобы на самом деле принести
and
пользу.
how you should fight in order to bring some good to the society, to the world.
Есть ли необходимость выстраивания отношений с олицетворенными гунами природы?
Is there a need to
А вы не сможете увидеть
get into the relationship with the modes of nature? Well, actually, your question is not practical because you won't be able to see the modes in personal form. It's impossible in this age for the conditioned souls. You need to understand your own mixture of gunas in yourself. When you are done with that, we might discuss it later.
Какую ясную цель касха-ашрама надо понять перед вступлением в этот ашрам?
What is the clear purpose of Grihastha ashram should be understood before you get married. Both the groom and future wife should read Bhagavad Gita first a few times. If you don't have a connection between you, you need to understand that there are two goals, prayers and shreyas. And prayers is something you need temporary, at the moment. If you get married in order to get wife to slave for you, to give your senses pleasure, to cook for you, etc., it means prayers. You live because you want some comfort in your life. If you marry in order to get to the ultimate goal of life, it's called shreyas. So everybody knows prayers nowadays, but they don't know shreyas. Comfort makes degradation. So we need to learn about this higher purpose, the super soul. If a man knows his past life, is it good? It doesn't change anything. Who cares who have you been in the past? It is matters who you are right now. If you didn't know it, your ultimate goal in the past, and you don't know it now, who cares? I remember what I was eating yesterday, but who cares? I need to know what to do today. Of course, it is connected. My activities yesterday and today, it is connected, but I need to know what to do today. So it's not practical. You can remember it, yes.
службы, да, регрессии устраивают.
There are some services done. You can go under this regression,
Сон гипнотический, там,
and you've been hypnotized or whatever,
направление им дают.
and they give you the direction,
Доходит до утробы матери,
and
буквально сворачивается как эмбрион.
they see themselves
И он вспоминает.
being in the womb of the mother, and they remember,
Я вам скажу,
they
одну
roll
вещь.
back.
Я не встречал ни одного человека,
But I never
который бы
met
это обрадовал.
anyone who became happy because of that knowledge.
Это просто ваше любопытство.
It's just your curiosity, nothing else.
Где практическая польза?
Where is the practical purpose of it?
Таких жизней было ой как много.
There were so many lives
Какой
before.
смысл идти в обратную сторону?
What is the purpose of going back?
Опытное значение не в том, чтобы вспомнить свою прошлую жизнь, чтобы вспомнить, кто я.
Our goal is to remember who I am, not
Поэтому
what
мы
was
снова,
with
снова,
me,
пока это не вспомним.
what was happening to me. Because we are getting
Еще есть вопрос?
birth on and on.
Может быть такое
Do you have some more questions?
эзотерические качества, присущие одной душе.
Да, да, может быть. Смешанные качества могут быть, да.
Can there be
Смешиваются,
some mixed
по
qualities in one
сочетанию,
soul?
как
Yes, it is
Юдхиштхира, он
possible.
был с, смешанным.
Just like Yudhishthira,
Царь
he
Юдхиштхира,
had
это кшатри,
mixed
так, но он
qualities.
был в большей степени браман,
He
чем
was the
кшатри.
king, and mostly he was Brahmana than the Kshatriya.
Он сражался на поле битвы как
He was
кшатри,
fighting
но
as
все
a
понимали,
Kshatriya
что
on the
он был
battlefield,
воином,
but everyone knew that he was not a fighter,
что он
just
там
like
наполнен
Bhimasena,
больше брамана.
Bhimasena or Arjun. He was more Brahmana,
Его уважали не за воинские вот,
and he was
методы, а за
respected
методы.
not because of his Kshatriya qualities, but of Brahmanical qualities.
Как был в Библии царь Саул.
Just like in Bible, there was Tsar Saul
Саул был воин.
and King
Давид был
Solomon,
А
And
Соломон
David.
уже не воевал.
and David was
Он миру
the warrior, and Solomon, he was not a warrior, he was Brahmana, he
Хотя
would,
все они были царями
but
по-разному.
they were all kings.
Один был первый воин неправедным.
The one who was a warrior, he was not the righteous one, Saul. He made mistakes,
Пророка пошел.
and he was going against the prophet.
Давид был выше.
David was higher than him,
Воином уже более
he
праведным.
was a warrior, but righteous warrior,
Но тоже совершил свои ошибки.
but he also made some mistakes.
И Соломон был
And
самым
Solomon
праведным,
was
потому что
the
он
most
просил
righteous
богатства.
man because he was asking for intelligence of God.
Он был таким могущественным,
Not
разумным, что его
Power,
поддерживали
but
все
intelligence.
сами
And he was so intelligent that
остальные.
all others,
Но он ошибку
the
тоже
kings, were
другого же уровня.
respecting him. But he also made a mistake of different kind.
Поэтому есть разные, да,
So there
разные темпераменты даже у
are
царей.
different
Есть также браманы,
kings,
разные
different brahmanas with different characters.
Есть браманы, которые любят проклинать.
There are some brahmanas who like to
Браманы,
curse
которые любят больше
people.
благословлять.
There are some brahmanas that like to give
Durvasa
benediction.
проклинает за малейшую оплошность.
Durvasa Muni is
У него роль такая.
cursing.
Если таких строгих браманов не будет,
Now
то
and
он
then.
знает этикет.
If there are no such brahmanas,
Такой, он очень
then nobody's gonna follow the
примерный,
etiquette.
Его боятся все. Если малейшая ошибка и проклятие.
You
будет,
make a slight mistake and you're gonna be cursed.
Дурваса Муни однажды
And Durvasa
поставил
Muni,
Индру
once
на небесных планетах
he was
гирляндой, с себя
he was
снял гирлянду,
congratulating Indra with the garland of his own,
и за победу над
special
демонами,
garland,
и
because
получил
he
гирлянду.
fought the demons.
А Индра был таким, знаете,
And
на
Indra,
вершине триумфа себя чувствовал.
he was
Возгордился
feeling
сильно.
so great back then. He took that garland as something that
Гирлянд на райских планетах,
is
знаете, сколько? Такие только
of no value,
И тут
because
еще одна
in the
гирлянда
heavenly
просто взял,
delicious
снял
planets
и повесил на
it
слона
is
Айравату.
there are so many garlands there, beautiful.
Тоже
And he took his garland and put it on the neck of the elephant. And Durvasa Muni,
То есть непочтение, непочтение
he
ну,
saw that
это от
Indra,
Брамы,
he was
дар,
not
просто дар.
respectful
Представь гирлянду.
towards him.
А слон есть слон, он взял эту гирлянду, покрутил, хоп, там и еще куда-то выбросил.
because the elephant, he would just throw that garland away. And immediately that Brahmana said that all the heavenly planets would be poor because Lakshmi Devi would leave this place for a long time. And that was Durvasa Muni. Other Brahmanas are more tolerant. They just leave the place whatever someone is mistreating them. There are some Brahmanas who are acting as the advisor of the kings, and some Brahmanas live in the forest. Even among workers, there's a variety. There might be some Brahmanas next to the doctors, or next to some masters of art, those who build and construct things, those who fight. Brahmanas are in need everywhere, and they have different characters. They might even cultivate the dirt, and this social picture is really vast and a lot of varieties, but still there are four main branches: the economical branch, the working class, the ruling class, and the intellectual class. This is the principle of the society. The teenagers, they don't have any interests or habits. How do we help them? You will not be able to help the teenagers who are not going through austerities. They would be lazy and helpless young men. This is the hard case of modern civilization. Nowadays they have no austerity whatsoever. They live only for the comfort sake. The boys should be treated in austerities. They should be kept. Even in Tsar's times, the king's children, they would be having these austerities. Otherwise, such person would be a parasite. The youth nowadays, they are motivated only by money or women. It's hard to find some teenager who is dreaming of becoming helpful to the society, because they don't really know how to utilize themselves. They have no idea of themselves. The only thing they ask for is money. They live with their parents till they're 40. And we have more and more examples of this. They grow up and they cannot even take care of their old mother and put it in a house for the old people. They don't want to support their old parents. They can't stand any austerities. So children, they need to work hard also. They need to study, to have some knowledge of what they are capable of and what they are not capable of. The water is not running towards where the... If you want to know who are you dealing with, you need to take him up in the mountains. Then you will know his nature. While you are not facing any problems, you just think of yourself. But you don't know your abilities. So we're just keeping those parasites in the society, and they just adjust in this, doing nothing.
Интернет забирает все силы.
The internet sucks all the
Много зрения.
potency of the youth nowadays. Too much of entertainment.
Проблема века, так сказать.
This is the problem of this age.
Каждый человек
Every man
должен понимать,
has to know the land he's living,
понимать смысл и пользу существования.
has to know
Понимать эти вещи практически.
the sense of life,
Уметь многое делать нужно
the
научиться.
goal of
Знать,
life.
что шудры это делают. Мы тоже должны все это уметь делать дома.
He should be capable of doing a lot of things, not just shūdras, not
Понимать
to
красоту,
what they do. He should
осваивать
understand
искусство.
the
Каждый
beauty. He should study art.
значит, он не образован.
Every man, otherwise he's an
Знать
ignorant.
философию, основы хотя
He
бы.
should
Не
know the
философию,
basics
основы
of
знания.
philosophy, of
Уметь
wisdom.
контролировать, обуздывать свои чувства.
He should learn how to control his senses when
Это
it's
наука.
required.
Не так, что
It's a
ничего, не
science.
знаю, там, гневаться, разрушать.
It's
всякое
not like
такое.
I am just following my senses, my instincts,
Надо научить
and
человека,
I'm
прежде чем он выйдет в жизнь еще.
becoming the slave of anger and destroy everything around. No, I need to learn what is soul, what is matter.
Это молодежь наша.
This is our youth. They just sitting online, knowing nothing.
Хотя этому возрасту присуще спрашивать, а в чем смысл жизни?
But actually,
Прекрасно.
this age, when you're a teenager,
Чакры.
your chakras are running this way that you have a lot of questions. You need to ask what's the purpose of my life. But instead
Но
of
в то же
being
время не всё
open,
так плохо, потому
the
что
chakras are being
многие
closed.
взрослые люди, они пробуждаются.
But actually, it's not so bad because so many young people nowadays, they becoming awakened to reality. Because
Развитию. Каждый человек
there is so much of the information there about self-realization.
Начать изучение вед с Махабхараты, а не с Бхагавад.
Is it good to start the study of Vedas from Mahabharata, not Bhagavad Gita? Yes, why not? It's an amazing thing.
рекомендовано для
It
нас,
is
для
recommended
людей,
for
для
us,
Бхарата.
for the
Более всего рекомендовано.
for ones who live in this age of Kali.
После Махабхараты.
Do you think that it would be easier to understand Bhagavad Gita after Mahabharata?
Ну, да, может быть.
Maybe.
Я думаю, да, может быть. Гита — это часть Махабхараты.
Gita is a part of Mahabharata.
Она в сюжете Махабхараты,
It is
как жемчужина.
inside of the plot of Mahabharata, just like a pearl, just like jewelry.
В Векале всем, да, предпочтительно читать.
In the age of Kali, everyone should read it.
Её
not
легко изучать, потому что это
even women.
события, истории.
It's easy to study because it's full of stories, amazing stories. How big is it? Because I know the forest book is the most spreaded.
Махабхарата — это как Библия, там много именно.
Mahabharata is just like Bible. It has a lot of things going on and descriptions.
Если кому-то удастся
If you read it, the whole thing,
человек может многое понять.
you would be able to understand a lot.
Но как вот всю Библию прочитать не так легко.
But it is not easy to read, just like the Bible. It's not easy to read the whole thing and then connect all of it.
Как Коран прочитать целиком.
Just like reading Quran
Нелегко.
as a whole.
Ну, Коран не был рассказан так.
Quran was not narrated the same way,
Был
though.
потом собран
It was
после ухода.
collected after the saint
И разбит по темам уже после него.
prophecy.
Что пророк в одно время
Saint Messiah left
по-другому, от обстоятельств
Muhammad.
происходило. Там не было рассказа какого-то последовательного.
So there is no smooth narration going on. It's more like
повествование также.
A collection of themes.
Цивилизации,
And Mahabharata is given this narration
той великой цивилизации, которая была на планете.
about great civilization,
Кшатры.
the kṣatriyas. Do we have some more questions?
Вопрос. Невежестве лень в страсти к движению. Есть цель материальная. Как человеку в невежестве заставить себя двигаться?
How is it possible when you're in the mode of ignorance to make yourself
Не только в невежестве. Гуны вращаются,
to act?
даже невежественный человек, он время от времени активизируется.
Actually, he might not be all in ignorance because the modes, they are circulating all the time. Let's say someone is lying down and he's not doing anything because he's being supported by parents. But mom and dad, they know if I would stop to support him, he would start to do things. They say, now you go to work and whatever money you have, this is your food. You can buy with. So there was a story, I can share it. There was one Brahmana in the family. It was a tradition that when your son turns 15 years old, you need to leave your house and live whatever you like. It was a good family. And they're saying, you're acting, your behavior is not correct and you need to leave. Now he's back with his family and he's good, he lives with his parents. For some period of time he left and he entered some institution and he was studying. And he learned some Ayurveda and he became a doctor of a PhD in a certain field. Thanks to his parents, because his parents were Brāhmaṇas and they brought him to this understanding of self-realization. In the early days, those who become independent, they become pretty successful in life. So we need to push youngsters away from houses. Marta, have you been pushed away? My mom was very strict with me. I see that you are not lazy. It's a good upbringing. Laziness is serious fault. It is the door for all other faults. So this is our life. Horrible, someone might say, but in the end it's good because we need some austerities. It's just like the mother bear who is very strict with its children. When a child is little, he's following and chasing his mom, but later he becomes pretty big, but he's still trying to chase his mom and follow. And what the mom does, she's beating the baby bear. It is big, but she's beaten almost to death him. So he's not following her anymore. And then he's all independent and he's fully himself. These are the bear examples, bear life. Usually people don't do it like this, but we give the education and knowledge, and because out of trust and respect, he learns it.
сильный.
Like,
Сильный
if you
интерес
take me,
стать художником.
I was
Я в 16 лет
inspired
уехал
by
домой,
art,
чтобы
and it
научиться.
took me away from my
С
house,
тех пор я уже
my
не
parents'
живу
house. Since that time, I was never living with my
И мне-
parents
я
under
жил
the same roof.
самостоятельно. Ну, они как-то
I
поддерживали
was
меня,
independent. For some time, they were supporting me,
но
and
это
then
была
I had
самостоятельная
some
жизнь.
money coming from my
В
student
быту, во всех
student
отношениях,
life,
в учебе, все это уже была моя ответственность.
and since that time, it was on me.
Мне приходилось планировать свою жизнь с
I had
16
to
лет,
plan my life
думать об этом.
since I was
Пока я был
16.
дома, это в голову такое не приходило.
While I was living at home,
Есть мама, папа, всё.
I was
Что
not
можете
thinking
делать,
about
делайте.
it.
Ничего не можете делать, что все делают мама и папа.
You coming home and you do nothing because mom and
Из дома
dad
выходите,
takes
начинаете
care of
соображать, что
everything. But when you're out,
А
you
мы
start to think because you're conditioned.
Родители должны быть заинтересованы в воспитании.
So parents should think about the education
Хорошо, тут мы
of
закончим.
their children. So we're gonna stop here. Thank you so